Have you ever traveled through time? We do it every day.
Asgardia is a country with a population of more than 1 million people from more than 200 countries on Earth. Asgardia gives everyone equal opportunities, no matter what their earthly status is.
It is possible to create and live in the future right now. Are you ready? Forward progress is the solution to the entire human race. Our mission is to bridge new horizons. In Asgardia, there is no limit to the universal development in the fields of technology, finance, and arts. Asgardia is a new space and digital economy which creates opportunities for the global economy. We deliver innovations. Do you want to get on board with us? We are developing various kinds of digital businesses, attracting them to the Asgardia platform that can be backed by the means of our umbrella, i.e. franchising of the Asgardia brand. We can not only attract investments into space programs from prominent institutional investors, but also affordable amounts from the citizens of Asgardia. We comprise of more than 1 million people.
Asgardia is a chance to realize one's dream. This is a dream-driven space nation. Asgardia is a chance to belong to a community of free-thinking enthusiasts, goal-driven dreamers, and fearless innovators, theorists, and scientists.
We are the first space nation. One humanity, one unity.
Asgardia.
We are creating
The future.
In the night and in the day near to 10 to 12. That's very, very really.
Yeah. Yeah, in my
Hi, hi, hi.
hello.
Hello.
In my experience, people get used to the weather in the country they live in. So I'm okay with between like 10 and 25 Celsius. But people in Sweden, I was in Sweden a few times, and one of the trips that I was there, it was freezing. There was snow all over the place, but the sun was suddenly shining a bit. And so everybody got into their short pants and went outside and sit in the snow because there was the sun.
No, it's crazy. No. That's terrible. That's terrible. You must have the, I don't know. Or you
We
must
are
own the
alive.
place. We're
Bridget
alive.
says to us, we are alive.
That's
We are
true.
alive.
And we shouldn't complain. Yeah, that's true. There's lots of
Yeah.
positive things happening. There's also lots of bad things happening, but okay, we have the opportunity to choose what we look at and what we read and so on. And that's quite luxurious.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's it.
that's good.
Welcome, everyone.
Hi, Mr. Chairman.
Let me get a better background.
It's splendid.
It's okay. Of course, now we are interested to know what it was behind you. That was
I
a
can show
sort of
you.
a graph or so of something.
No,
Yeah.
that's the painting. It's just a painting.
Aha.
This is something, or a drawing, and this is something that my 7-year-old made for me.
Aha.
It says, "Number one, Daddy." And it's here. So it's not that it's secret. It's just, I just do it for branding. I got a little bit of dirt there on the picture, so yeah. So this is what you get. This is what you get.
Of course, now the question is, do you also believe yourself that you are the number one daddy, or are you the one for her because it's the only daddy she has?
I am the best daddy in this household.
Yeah.
And I will stick with that. What matters is that she thinks that. Yeah. Well, welcome everybody. I'm Len Turpic. I'm the chair of Parliament, and according to my daughter, the number one daddy. Let's see if the second daughter thinks the same thing. We have these weekly sessions to talk about the matters which are taking place in Asgardia, and these are not formal. They don't have a vote, but they are work in progress. Today's will be a short meeting as usual because tomorrow we all get together to have our next digital sitting, which is the roughly quarterly sitting of our Parliament. We have 4 or 5 of these a year normally, and this is the final one for this year. As chair of Parliament, I will chair most or all of it, and there will be formal votes. So I've got 6 things to go through. None of them are very long, but they should be quite interesting. First of all, the logistics. Tomorrow, we start at 1700 UTC. 1700 UTC. And the longest it will be tomorrow is till 1900 UTC. Maximum is 2 hours. It's usually technical. It opens the voting. We go through the agenda, and then we talk about any other process issues. But we don't really debate the content of the legislation. That's day 2. On day 2, we start at 1300 UTC. It seems to be a time that people like. 1300 to 2100 is what we tend to allocate, but we don't normally use all of it. One reason we don't is because we've actually got brilliant translators, and that saves us at least 50% of our time. Very, very effective translators. And I'm guessing that day 2 will take 4 or 5 hours, probably. Then day 3, we open 1500 UTC till 2000 UTC, and that's the day of committee reports and other presentations. So those are the 3 days of our digital sitting. The voting is open from 1700 UTC on Friday to 1700 UTC on Sunday. We need a quorum, which means we need 50% of all parliamentarians plus 1 attending, and we use the vote on the agenda really as the quorum count. So there's a vote, they can vote for, against, or abstain on the agenda, and we usually use that as the measure of the quorum. We have to have a quorum because otherwise we won't make any of the legislation official. Second of 6 points, we have 4 pieces of legislation for voting at first and second reading. But then we've got a very interesting debate, and we're not quite sure what's going to happen yet with the third piece, which is at fifth piece, which is at third reading. I'll come to that in my next point. Those 4 pieces of legislation will be presented on the Saturday, on day 2. And colleagues will have the chance to debate those pieces of legislation. And if they receive a majority, then they get through that stage. Moving on to my third of 6 points. There's a piece of legislation by John Fine at third reading. After this meeting, about half an hour after this meeting, we'll be talking, myself, John Fine, and Lena, the Prime Minister, will be talking about how we progress, because there's a new complexity to the process. It's been in the system, but we have not been doing it. Not in the way that I think we have to now. The Minister of Justice needs to be involved, and mainly because of me. I took too long to put the documentation through. I slowed things up a bit this time for reasons which just of human reasons this time. It was an exceptionally difficult November, to be honest with you. But I've solved those problems now. Well, the legislation that John's doing, we're going to see if we can use this as a test case. Just looking at what you put there, Competition Fair Trade Act. I'm just looking at the screen now. Competition Fair Trade Act, Tax Act, Copyright Contract Act, the Consumer Protection Act. We're probably not. Well, we don't know. We don't know if we're going to vote on that yet. I'm going to explain this in a minute. My 4th point. But basically, the other 4 are going to be voted on, and we're going to have myself, John Fine, and the Prime Minister will have a discussion about the fifth item, the Asgardia Consumer Protection Act, third reading. We're gonna have a discussion about that in this evening to work out how we proceed. This leads me to my fourth of 6 points. The reason we're doing this is because we have massively evolved the process that we use for making legislation. And now, maybe this is even the final point. Thank you for that, Ariadne. That was helpful. Maybe this is well, it's not the end of the evolution, but it's maybe the final large factor that we might change a bit. And that's the way in which we involve ministers. The way it works at the moment is we've got the chair of a committee, who is normally one of the people in charge of bringing forward legislation, talking with the minister in that same subject area. Then Peter Morn as deputy chair, as chair of the Justice Committee, reviews from a legal perspective, not so much political one, but legal and constitutional perspective, the legislation. But we need to get the Minister for Justice to do the same thing. That's the part which I haven't really done so well before. Now I'm saying that we really need to actually formalize that. I made it quite difficult this week because I did most of the work myself, and that was a mistake. John, myself, and Lena will work out the best way to do that from now on. So that's just a development, a learning point. It would have been helped if I had been a little bit faster with the timing, it's true, but we would still have had to have this discussion. So John and I and Lena will work this out about 30 minutes after this meeting ends. Fifth of 6 points, the opportunity is there on Sunday to hear an update from Corner and me. I'll mention it briefly on Saturday as well, but from Corner about the way we're working on another piece of legislation, which is Youth and Education Act. It's a huge piece of work done by Corner, so big that we're trying to turn it into a series of laws, not just one, because it's just a little bit big. So the first part, which we've been working on, which is available, it's up to Corner, she'd like to share it on Sunday. The first part is the principles, preamble, and then the rights and responsibilities. So it's a first part, but Corner can decide if she wants to share the actual wording, but we'll certainly share the process. So that's a piece of legislation, not for voting this time, but we're finally getting progress on that because it's a really big piece of legislation, and that's the main part of Corner's chair's committee report as well. Yeah, and then the final thing was to say that I might be able to get a speaker. I'm not sure yet. I'm asking, maybe we'll have a guest speaker, but I can confirm that tomorrow when we start. I don't know yet if we can get a guest speaker or not, but after this time, I want to have a guest speaker at each of our events. We normally do. We've had some great presentations on the extended isolation test, which is about how people behave in an isolated environment on, for example, an extended mission to Mars. I was looking at the British Interplanetary Society. I don't know if they will respond, but well, I will keep you posted. I will keep you informed on that one because I think it's very important that you know who we get, and we'll let you know tomorrow because I'd like to have a good turnout for that. So most of that is just about the session. I don't want to keep people too long today, but let's open it up for everybody else. Oh, Peter Morn also, by the way, he sends his apologies. We had a good meeting earlier on, and I was really talking about these items. Please, if you're a chair of a committee, please send me a report, even if it's very short. Please send me a report. Then we can make sure that everyone's reports are included in the record of this particular sitting as well. So, right, open to you. Anything people would like to comment or ask about? Yes, Jakob.
I couldn't find the hand up sign so fast,
sorry.
but thank you for watching. I've got three things. The first thing is very a simple thing. I have to apologize that I have not been present quite a few times. I have been very busy the last few weeks doing overtime and so on, so I just couldn't make it. Second thing is you talked about the procedure for getting legislation through. That is interesting. As you might know, that we have created a draft standard on that procedure. And now that it has been changed, I'm very interested to know what the changes are, and because I would like to update or see that the change is implemented in the standard. I don't know whether it's already definitive, but if there is something definitive, I would like to know, because then I can update the standard.
Right. Are you talking about the legislative process?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to talk. The answer to your question is John, myself, and Elaine are going to talk about how best to do this. Because what held us up, as I said before, I was a bit late with the paperwork this time, with the administration side. But then we had the additional complexity of trying to now find a better way to introduce the Minister of the Justice Committee's feedback. And I tried to incorporate it, but I caused probably more trouble than I saved by doing that. So myself and John and Lena will talk about that, and I expect we'll use his legislation as a test case, as an experiment in how we do that. So I can't tell you now, but I will be able to tell you at the opening or tomorrow. Well, I think I'll be able to report on this during the digital sitting.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Okay, so I'll hear during or after. I don't know whether I can be there the whole time. There is we have a party at our house. It is here in the Netherlands. It is Sinterklaas today, this evening, at this moment. And that's where all small children get gifts. It's the basis of Santa Claus, but then from the Netherlands. and this Saturday, all of our children and grandchildren are all coming together. So lots of people. Very nice. But so that will be Saturday. So okay.
Well, don't feel too obliged. You can always ask me afterwards or next Thursday's Q&A, because John, we will probably know better after we've gone through this weekend, but I hope that this evening we'll have some guidance on this too.
Okay.
Or you can just contact me, give me a call, I'll tell you.
Very good.
What I'm trying to do is make sure the system works for everybody all the time. That's really what I'm trying to do. So everybody has the same access to the same feedback all the time, and that if I can be a little bit more organized about it, which I will be, then it'll happen without any panic, without any time pressure. That's one of the main things I'm concerned about. TJ, hi.
Hello. Can you guys hear me okay? I was just concurring with Jacob and just saying that I would also like to be in the loop a little bit, just because I've been out for a little bit. I did touch base with Josh and Peter over the last couple of weeks, so we've been trying to catch up and communicate as well. And we're working on some new things for the new year for our group as well. But I did also, if anything was new or change or anything that I needed to know as like a deputy, that was like screaming important that I forgot by chance that anybody could think of, then that would be great too. So
okay, that's on. Well, I'll share it with everybody, because once we've organized how the process works, then everybody has a right to know, and that's what we'll do. So absolutely fair question, and it's necessary that everybody knows where we stand with this as well. I think that's a very good point.
Yeah, that was also one of the reasons why we created a standard for it, and because then it would be written down and accessible on the internet. That helps, I guess.
It does. We're really trying to make sure the standard works. That's really what we're doing. And the part which has been causing trouble is not really trouble, but uncertainty, I think is the phrase, is the involvement of the Minister of Justice as well. I just need to have a standard, predictable way to do it. and I don't want it to be in a situation where it depends on one person, such as me. It should happen automatically. Yeah, Jakob?
I've got something completely different. So,
yep, cool.
Okay, just good news. Something completely, well, not related to what we were just talking about, but very much related to Asgardia, to one of the main goals of Asgardia, namely fertility in space. Children in space, getting pregnant in space, that area. Yesterday, I visited a session of Spaceborne United, and the organization of Egbert Edelbroek, who was in Parliament, in the previous Parliament. Cheryl, Minister of Culture, also joined. And we had a quite an interesting session where they told about great progress in this area on fertilization in space, starting with mice, eggs and sperm, using a microfluidic disc in a mini laboratory, which will be launched. The whole laboratory, which is this size or so, will be launched into space, and there in space, the fertilization will take place in a very controlled way. And it will all be very much lots of sensors and everything on it and so on. There will be multiple launches for that, really multiple launches. And they, of course, the laboratory will return to Earth, and there things will be investigated. And one of the people might have already heard about this, of course, because Egbert has been telling about it in the past. But an extra interesting thing is that the IVF industry and the in vitro fertilization industry, and when you can't get a baby in a normal way, then you go to an IVF clinic, and that industry is looking very carefully on what is happening over there. And they are very interested because there are already, even before the first launch, they already have very good results that might very well be usable here on Earth in IVF. So it already has spin-off, even though they even have not yet launched, which is really great. So they are doing very good stuff over there. So I'm very enthusiastic about it. So I just wanted to share this good news with you.
That sounds quite promising, actually. It's for those who aren't familiar with Asgardia, it's become obvious to Dr. Asher Bailey, our founder, that human beings have to be born in space if we're ever going to leave Earth. If we can't be born in space, we can never, ever leave Earth for the long term. So Asgardia is something of a trailblazer, really, trying to work with those people who are at the forefront of this, at the front end of this process, to actually make a judgment about how best to do this ethically. And that's one of the interesting questions that we've got. TJ.
So just a quick question, so that I can understand this correctly. Will we be discussing the standard in more detail tomorrow? I'm assuming once more information in regards to the debacle as far as one person being designated over another individual, even though the standard doesn't designate any individual over any other individual, and it gives options over who could like pick up. So I'm really curious as to which day we're going to have this conversation. We want to be present when that standard gets discussed. Because I know exactly where the conversation is going to go. So I definitely want to be present because I feel like I need to be.
Well, I want to talk about it tomorrow because I
already feel defensive, even just like even when you gave your feedback, like trying hard not to like respond, like without like when you look like when you were like trying to respond to it, like I feel like I need to be prepared to like respond to that.
Okay, not quite sure. I didn't mean I meant what I said, which is John, myself, and Lane are going to talk about how we try to incorporate the Justice Minister's input.
And maybe I misinterpreted it, and I can ask you later, but we'll see.
Well, basically, right, the system works well, but the part which has been a bit touch and go, which hasn't been very consistent, is getting the Minister of Justice's feedback into the system. We sometimes haven't asked the Minister of Justice at all, and the view is that the chair of the Justice Committee and the Minister of Justice should both be involved in the process. And now I did this late on in the process, and we've decided there's not a benefit in using that feedback this time for the first and second reading debates, because we can always use that feedback at the third reading. And then with the third reading,
makes sense,
which is the one which John Fine is managing, where myself and Lena and him are just going to have a chat about his specific piece of legislation, not the content, but just the process, how we work this out. And that will probably be roughly half an hour after we finish this meeting. And then tomorrow, I intend to report back on that at the opening session of the Parliament. And then we can have a discussion on it too. Oh, Ariadne's sharing something. All right. Well, that's yeah. There's a webinar by the Ministry of Justice on the space economy. It's not exactly about the same thing, by the way, but Mark Beer is the Minister of Justice there that I'm referring to. So yeah, so it's really just the one thing I'm trying to get right is how we get the Minister of Justice feedback in early enough for it to be useful, and transparently enough that I don't do everything. I've been trying to do everything. That wasn't the smart move. I should have let other people do it, and that's the point.
The minister wasn't. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go on.
No, I was going to say the minister was involved with the Justice Committee. I was very much in communication with him and his assistant on a regular basis. It just got to a point where the minister was making comments about legislation that was not supposed to be shown at, let's say, a legislative setting. And I would let somebody know, hey, you're not supposed to be at third reading, you're supposed to be at first reading, which is my job, that he would delegate to me, and say I would make a comment to someone and they would tell me as the deputy of justice, even though they're not in the Justice Committee, they would tell me, even though I was getting directed to do that job, that that's not where they were supposed to be. And I was getting directed by the Minister of Justice directly, or like he would say, you know, I even have the emails. Why is legislation going to the legislative forum without me even looking at them? He even sent me an email about that and had me do a presentation about it at one of our weekly meetings about how legislation needs to be created. That is the whole reason the standard was created in the first place, was to give us some sense of guidance so that we understood what the actual process was, so that we could actually follow proper policies and procedures. But unfortunately, when people want legislation passed, there are some people that do follow proper policies and procedures, which is what our prime minister wants. And that is what I intend to follow, is what she wants and what my minister wants and what you as my you know, the chair of our parliament wants. Like, that is what our job is to do. But we can't be creating legislation and just bypassing processes. I, as the deputy, didn't even review half of the legislation. And even while I was on break, I didn't get one email, one text message, one message saying, hey, can you please review this piece of legislation? You know, and it takes me not even a few minutes. So it's just, there was no initiation for anyone to include the Justice Committee to certain levels. And I'm speaking on from a deputy's level at the Justice Committee, and I'm probably speaking on behalf of my own committee. And this is just coming from me, but I'm just saying, like, you know, I'm looking forward to seeing Mark come back, because I think that it's important that he puts his foot down, because as the minister, you know, the standard was created for a reason, and I think that we need to pick up where we left off. So
okay, well, we need just to formalize the thing so that I don't have to do all the work on it. That
I agree.
The Justice Committee, because I did do all the work on it this time and it didn't really help. So I'm talking about the Justice Committee, the Justice Minister working it out without me having
Got it.
So Team Justice works it out. And then
I got you.
I get one.
I hear what you're saying.
That's what I want. Because otherwise, I happen to have experience in this process. But in 20 years' time, shock horror, I probably won't be chair of parliament in the year 2044. Then the process has to work whether or not the chair of the parliament has got parliamentary experience in a terrestrial parliament or not. So we need to have a system where the Justice Committee and the Justice Ministry do the work together, so that it doesn't depend on the chair happening to have some skill set that I have, which isn't. It's helpful, but shouldn't be an absolute necessity for somebody in my position to be able to write all the documents. And also, by that time, there won't be time, because if, say, in 100 years, if we have habitations in 10 different places in space, the chair of parliament can't do it all. So we have to be able to delegate. So I agree. So what we'll do is, John, myself, later, we'll have a chat about this in about, well, half an hour after we finish. And then tomorrow we'll share this with everybody. It'll be an open discussion. It's only about John, me, and Lena, because we're actually looking specifically at the third reading of that particular piece of legislation. We're not going to talk about what the actual content of the legislation is. It's procedure, and just working out what I need to do next to make sure that we don't have any stress and pressure that I have done this time.
Okay. I think before I do anything and make any changes to anything, I gotta touch base with my minister and with my chair, like together with Joshua as well, because obviously I'm not the only deputy. So we all gotta kind of get together, and we're planning on doing that after the new year, hopefully, is our goal. So we're giving everybody a little bit of a break, and then once we do that, then we'll go gung ho. But I think everyone is doing an amazing job, aside if everyone thinks I'm mad, because I'm not. I think everyone is doing great, by the way. And happy holidays.
Well, thanks for saying. We're going to get it all sorted out. It's not going to be a problem at all. Jakob?
I do.
Yes, when you're talking, it might be a good idea, or when you have been talking about it or so, to have a quick look at the current version of the standard. It's in the IAS. It is the standard number 8 on parliamentary document management. There is some graph in it, for example, which is sort of the main picture of the whole procedure, how it is described in a standard. Not that it is correct like that, but it would be great if what you come up with your discussion sort of resembles what is in there, because that saves time, and because what is in the standard has already been discussed quite in length in the past. So it would be good if it was not too much different.
Yeah, I don't want to change it at all, really. I'm just trying to apply it now. We've got the standard, and I don't want to spend time changing that standard. I want to make sure we make it work, which is the good thing that's coming out of the current discussions. And I'm hoping John and I and Lena can do that, using his very specific case in order to make that progress. And we need to work out what we are actually doing on Saturday. We won't be voting, I'll just say now, on the third reading, we won't be voting on the hybrid which I've created, which I don't think you people have seen. It's a hybrid which tried to bring in all of the feedback from everybody. We might be voting on the third reading, as discussed last time, but that's what John, myself, and Lena need to work out. And then after that, then if you can be there tomorrow, TJ and Peter Morn, then that would be very helpful for Friday. We could, of course, talk about it in the government hour too, but let's just see what we get out of the result. What results we get today. Okay, thanks. Anybody else? Oh, okay, that's helpful. Institute of Standards, AIS.
It is on the left. If you click on standards on the left in the menu, exactly over there. Yeah. And if you there, you see the standards. If you go down a bit, you see number 8. This is number 2. Down is number 3. If you scroll down a bit, you get number 8. And that's parliamentary document management, exactly. And that's the one that I was referring to. It, among others, contains a graph. Maybe if you scroll down, you'll see it. It first explains the whole thing, and then it shows the graph picture. It's quite a long story. Sorry about that.
Yeah, we worked really hard on it, and it's very long. A lot of people worked hard on it. I know that John was a part of the parliamentary document management team, Ariadne, Crisante, or Ida, I'm sorry. And quite a few other people, Joshua. There was a lot of people a part of this team that haven't been as active, but were really, really prevalent at the beginning when we first started messing with this standard, me and Jacob. And what you have now is what he kind of finalized after we showed him what we wanted to do as the Justice Committee on our side, like what we were planning on doing on the back end as we were checking it. And he kind of modified it accordingly based off of what was already currently in place. So I thought he did a great job. Thanks, Jacob.
Thank you. Compliments. Okay, I'll deal with those standards in our meeting as well. Any other business that anyone wants to bring forward? I will start with my AOB because we're going to be together again in 22 and a half hours. So tonight I've got one more meeting. Oh, Ariadne.
Well, just congratulations to Dan Profir for the Highway to Space, because Corna Olivier was amazing with the interview and the Let's program, and I want to congratulate them. And well, that's all.
Okay, thank you. Totally agree. And TJ?
Question to Ariadne. Is there a way that you could send me the text off of that picture in German? I don't mind typing it out, which I will, but do you have a way to take the text part off versus it just being like the photo, or no? Do you have like the original text that was in German? By chance?
Do you think about the mail that I sent you? You are
yes,
talking about
yes,
the mail
yes.
that I sent you?
Sorry,
Okay,
the email,
okay.
yes. Sorry.
Don't worry, be happy. I'm reply in a few minutes. Okay.
Okay, cool. Because I have the part of the translation for you, but I want to double check and make sure that it's the entire document that I'm looking at. So I'll message you here in just a second when you get
yes, up. Yeah, you can, if you upload the paper directly of the blog, it's impossible to.
It is.
It's impossible to content all the translated. But if you put the tool to translate directly, the same way as the page, the official page of us, do you see? You can change the language. Okay, it's the same.
Yeah.
You can change the language and read there.
Perfect.
But if you want to copy and paste, lost the document.
Okay, that's why I was like, what is going on with this picture? It kept deleting it and bringing it back and deleting it and bringing it back. And
yes,
I was having a field day with that photo. I learned quite a few German words, but it was fine.
Don't worry.
Thank you. Sarah?
Awesome.
Sarah E. Clark was up a moment ago.
It was. I just had one question about the finance legislation, and I was just hoping you could give me a really quick ring. It'll take probably 3 minutes. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, let me do it this way. I'll in about half an hour or so, I'll talk with John and Lena, and after that, I'll give you a call. No problem at all. TJ and then Ariadne. Oh, right. Sorry, Ariadne. Your hand was still up.
It was an accident. It was an accident.
No worries.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Yes, a suggestion to Dr. Sarah Clark. Please explain slowly. The other day when she explained the paper about the finance, he's hurry up. He is spelling so rush, and it's really impossible for all of us to understand her. That's all. Slowly, please.
I promise I will talk slower.
Oh, thank you.
Cross my heart.
Thank you. That is good. All right. Well, we can remember to do that anyway. I will remind you if I talk too fast or anyone else does. I'll make sure that we remind ourselves to stay at a speed that works for the translators. That's the important thing. Right. So looking ahead, then, any other business? Raise your hand if you want to raise anything. But if no one has by the time I finished, then I will close the meeting. But tomorrow we start 1700 UTC till 1900 latest. On Saturday, Saturday 1300 UTC till 2100 latest, and then Sunday 1500 UTC to 2000 latest. That's the year's final digital sitting. If you've got legislation, please make sure you're ready to do the presentation. Cornus we'll talk about on Sunday, and this leads me to my second of 3 points. I will call. I'll organise to speak with John and Lena tonight to work out what our process is for the third reading, and to use this as a way of trying to modify the system to ensure that we actually have the feedback going through as in line with the Association of the Asgardia Institute of Standards, standard which we saw earlier on. And finally, Sarah, after I've spoken with them, I'll give you a call, which will probably be in about an hour or so, maybe just a bit longer. Any other business? Oh, and also in line to what TJ said, we'll share what we've worked out with John and Lena tomorrow, just that we've got an idea of the process and the modification of the process in order to make sure that we have a process which is sustainable on its own without it all having to be done by me. Okay, thanks everybody. So tomorrow we'll see you in just under 22.5 hours for our final digital sitting of the year. Enjoy your party, Jakob, and expect to call John and Lane if you're in the call as well, and then Sarah after that. If you are watching for the first time, join Asgardia. We are the world's first fully functioning digital democracy. No one has done this before, and it works very well. So please do join us. €100, dollars or pounds a year. That's what it takes for you to be a full resident of Asgardia, and then you can stand for the elections and everything else. Thanks, everyone. So half an hour, John, I'll give you a call. I'll see if we can get Lena then as well. We can stop the recording now, but remember, before Rebecca does stop the recording, be with us at 1700 tomorrow, and you'll see the world's first digital parliament at its best. Have a good evening.
Oh ho!
Oh ho!
Oh ho, Asgardians!
And we were at 28, so when we get to